Hi guys, so I hope all of you can hear me. So just a quick spammy kind of thing, just spam yes if all of you guys can hear me. Just type in yes in the comment section if you guys can hear me. Just check if you guys can hear me. Cool, cool. So I'll just quickly start. So a little bit about myself. I am a software developer by profession. I recently finished my software development internship with releasemyad.com, and I'm currently an incoming GSOC 20 developer with Aussie. So yeah, so that's my current status. I'll share my GitHub link with like you can go to at the rate JDDeep here. Like if you can see the link, just like you can Google it up and you'll you know come by my profile, right? So yeah, you can do that. I have all my projects and all my contributions showcased up here, so you can take some inspiration from here. Maybe find some projects which are suitable for you, so that you can get on with open source development as well, right? So we also have open source session tomorrow, so that will help you guys as well, right? So what about today then, right? So today we have planned our session about Flutter, right? So let's just go right into it and understand what's Flutter all about, right? So basically, what Flutter is, right? So Flutter is a software development kit, right? So that's a basic definition, but what does that even mean, you ask, right? So the basic terms, so it's a kit by which we can develop different softwares, right? So as you can see here, in the website it shows that we can like we can understand that it kind of helps us to develop different kind of apps, right? So what Flutter is like, you can use Flutter. You write some code using the language called Dart, and you run that app, and basically with that same code base you have apps available on different platforms, right? So you write code a single time using Dart, and you run the same code for uh, you know for the apps to run on devices such as Android devices, maybe iOS devices or desktop devices, or maybe on the web platform, right? So as you can see here, this SDK is made by Google. So that's pretty satisfying, right? So since it's made by topmost like a topmost brand, so it should be like a considerable for a development framework to for us to use it in our daily basis while we develop different softwares, right? So what's something cool about Flutter, right? So for the first point, as you all know, right, like you can read this statement here. We can use the same set of code base for compiling applications on different platforms, right? Maybe if you are planning to make a mobile application or Android application or iOS application, you can use Flutter and make that application. Or maybe if you are planning to develop a web application but don't know what to do, right? So you can definitely use Flutter and make a web application right away, right? So also we have support for desktop applications. So recently, like yesterday, Flutter released its 1.17 version. So before that, the desktop enabling was in the beta state, but after that, we have got the desktop enabling as well. So now you can easily make apps for all the three platforms, right? So, and the most beautiful part is that you don't need to write different code for the different platforms. You just type in code a single time and it gets compiled for all your devices, right? It can be any device, maybe your Android user, maybe your iOS user, it can be anything, right? So that's the most beautiful part for Flutter. So now what's next, right? So even so you can say that, okay, so you're saying that it's a cross platform development kit, but we have other products as well. We have React and all other stuff like that, right? So see, just it's so they also show you here, right? So they aren't any hiding anything or sorts like that. They show you that like you have React Native, you have Xamarin to build cross-platform applications. But why do we even come to this website? Why do we even like want to try Flutter, right? So being a cross-platform development kit, so what are the features it provides us? So the first feature is the development speed is eh, like incredibly fast, you can say, right? So if you are a like existing software developer, like maybe you develop native applications on Android, or maybe you develop native applications for iOS, or even you're a cross platform developer, making applications for like using React or Xamarin. But why to use Flutter then, right? So comparing with all those frameworks and development kits, Flutter has a really great development speed, right? So one of the main things it provides is that while you will be developing with Flutter, there is a feature called hot reload. So I'll like if you use Android Studio, because I don't think it will be possible for me, in this today's webinar session to show you the Android Studio. But like if you're familiar with Android Studio, once you open it and have Flutter integrated, you will have a feature called hot reload, right? So once you hit that hot reload feature and enable it, so like you can see this in this live demonstration in this GIF here, right? So if you make any change in the code and just hit the hot reload button, it like instantly changes the state of the application on your device, right? Maybe it can be emulator, maybe it's a device in your hand or anything. But this particular feature makes it like incredibly good for fast development, right? So this feature isn't available on any other framework or development kit, but with Flutter, like one you make changes side by side, right? So like see here in this GIF, you can see the person is changing some text here, and once he hits the hot reload button, like the change is showing up instantly on the device, right? So this is not something which you see with other development kits. Like you what like if you're a native application developer, so I think your life will be pretty difficult, like for all the small kind of changes, right? For like even for a small change, like if you are changing but like even a small character for sure, like if you are trying to see what that change looks on the real device, you need to build that whole application again, and then it will take in the whole lot of time for before it shows up on your device, right? So this is a pretty cool thing, like it's also written on the website, right? So it tells you that this hot reload feature specifically helps a lot in the development speed, right? So that's a cool feature we have with Flutter. So, and it certainly makes life easy for if you're coming from a background from like a native developer, like who has been developing Android applications or iOS applications, and even for small changes you need to rebuild the whole application like iteratively. So it saves you a hell lot of time in that way, right? So that's about fast development speed with Flutter. And so another thing, like this is something which Flutter like this is something which is lying behind the existence of Flutter, right? So like you can see here in this GIF, they have clearly shown, like, just see the user experience of this particular application, right? So these kind of user experiences, these kind of UIs are pretty easy, can be made pretty easily using Flutter, right? So they have a whole lot of ready-made widgets which you can use. Like with native applications, you need if you're trying to build something like this which they are showing in this GIF, you need to put a lot of hard work in it, and make everything custom, like even the small assets and everything, like you are seeing these icons and everything, like this contain the small boxes, like all this kind of gestures, right? And these animations, you need to do a lot of hard work for all this, right? But with Flutter, this the all these different kind of yeah, yes, yeah, I think there was some connection issues. Yeah. Yeah, so cool. So as I was saying, so as you can see, all these different parts on the screen, which you can see, like, see, there is this cards which are appearing on the screen, and all these different kind of images and all these animations, as you can see here, right? So if you're trying to build something even close to this with your native development kit, maybe Android or iOS, whatever, your life can be pretty difficult, right? But with the Flutter, we have built-in widgets which you can use directly to make something similar to this pretty in pretty good amount of time. Like, you will be able to make this like very quickly, and also the experience for a user would be pretty great, right? So that's something which Flutter is existing for, like helping developers to build beautiful UIs quickly, right? So that's something which lies behind the existence of Flutter, right? So they have beautiful all this material, they are following all the material guidelines which are provided by Google, and they are following that to help developers build good user experiences for for their applications which they are developing, right? So that's about building beautiful UIs with Flutter, right? So now what's next, right? So here is another point, like the native performance, right? So what does that even mean, right? So as I said, that since it's a cross platform development kit, like you will be writing code once, and you'll be compiling that code and running that application on different kinds of devices, right? So maybe at one time you run that same code on a iOS device, and at another time you run that same code on an Android device, right? So what, as being developers, what do we expect, right? So we expect smooth performance on different devices, so that our users get benefited with that, right? So that's also something which Flutter takes care of. It has exactly the same uniform smooth experiences across all platforms, like, and also it takes care of the responsiveness. Like, maybe you're compiling the same code for a web application or a desktop application, and at some other time you are compiling the same code for a mobile application, right? So Flutter takes care of that, and the experience is exactly the same on all across all the devices, right? So as you can see here, the, this is the same code which has been compiled and fired on different devices. Like this is iOS device and this is Android device. This is the same app, you can say, which is running on both the devices. But as you can see, the performance is absolutely smooth, and there is nothing kind of laggy experience, or even if there is no issue with any portion. The code is absolutely same for both the devices, and the applications are running absolutely smoothly, right? So that's also a part which Flutter takes care of, so that developers can live their lives easily and can benefit the users in a quick and fast way, right? So those were the basic points which Flutter has taken care of, like before coming into existence. Like, if you're like, why did Google even try to make a cross-platform development kit, right? So because there were already a React and Xamarin prevalent before Flutter, right? And people were using those kits, right? So before making a framework, so before making something, you need to find a good reason for making it, right? So if you're inventing something, there should be a need for it, right? So since developers were facing all these issues, like they were facing like unsmooth performances on different devices, they were facing issues with the development speed mainly. Like, as I said, if you are coming from a background of developing native applications on different platforms, so your life would be pretty difficult. But with Flutter, so they have made it easy for you, and the development speed is made fast without compromising on the user experience, without compromising on the features in your application, right? So you can make expressive, beautiful user interfaces as well in record time, with the help of the pre-built widgets they provide, right? So we will be learning more about what is actually a widget, right? So since I'm now saying that, like, who are using Flutter, like I told, developers are using Flutter. So as you can see, here are some popular companies which are actually using Flutter in their companies and in their softwares, right? So these are some companies mentioned here, and as you can see, here are some cool resources which you can see what is all about. Like I said yesterday, they announced Flutter 1.17. You can surely go head over here and see what all the new features are which they are providing with Flutter since yesterday. So now, as you can see, they are supporting web, and since it was in beta stage earlier, there were some issues while developing a web application with Flutter, but now they have resolved it, and the support has been enhanced for it, right? So now that we have got a pretty basic understanding and what Flutter is all about, right? So now let's just head over to some code, right? And let's just see what all this about. Like, I don't know, God knows how many times I've mentioned widget, right, over this period of time. So let's just see what all that is about, right? So so here is another cool thing which Flutter has made. Like, since I told you that we code Flutter using the language called Dart, right? So they have made a online coding platform called dartpad.dev. So if you are accessible to a laptop or a personal computer with you, you can just simply go to this website, like dartpad.dev. If you can simply type it in and hit enter, you should land on a website something similar to this, right? So they have provided you a code editor, and beside it there is a terminal where you can see actually the output of your application, right? So as you can see, they have made it entirely responsive. Like, if you copy this same code and try to build it on your device or some emulator for if you're developing this application for Android device or iOS device or something else, you can copy paste the same code and build it, you will get a purely responsive application for all these devices, right? So but since we are on a web page and we are compiling it and running it here, so as you can see, the entire thing is stretched up, and everything is properly arranged, taking care of the responsiveness of the application, right? So now let's just go through this piece of code here. Like this is a pretty sample application which Flutter so if you install Flutter, so I think I showed you if you how to install Flutter, but if you haven't noticed it, at the bottom of the web page, so if you go to flutter.dev, at the bottom of the website, you will see like there is this link if you are trying to install Flutter. So if you simply click on this link, it'll it'll take you to this install instructions, so you can choose any of your operating system which you are currently working on, and it will have specific steps to help you install Flutter SDK on your operating system, right? So for using Flutter, you should have a code editor if you're trying to build applications on your uh, devices such as Android or iOS or whatever. So you should have a primary code editor. I personally prefer VS Code for working with Flutter, but of course you can use Android Studio as well, right? So it's up to you. You'll find all the instructions here. There are thorough instructions like with proper steps. As you can see, they have given this link, and after that they have entirely written descriptively how you can install the software development kit properly on your computers. So feel free to go through all this and get it set up on your computers, right? So 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 once you are done with that and you have installed Flutter, so one after that, if you try to create a Flutter application using your terminal or console, whatever you have, so if you simply type in Flutter create, it will create whatever I'm saying, you will find each and every statement in this install section, right? So after you have installed the whole Flutter, they will give you commands by which you can develop your first Flutter application, right? So feel free to go through all that. So I'm just quickly reiterating what they have written in all those install docs, right? So what they've basically written is that if you open your terminal and just write Flutter create, so it'll simply create a Flutter application for you, and by default it creates a sample application which I have currently opened it up on your screens, right? So you will get the same application if you just go type in Flutter create. After installing Flutter, it will create this application in the specific folder wherever you run this command in your terminal. And after you have done that, you should have this sample application up and running on your devices, right? So 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 let's just go through all this and see what this code actually means and how we can understand this to build different kind of apps and different kind of experiences for users, right? So first up is, so before starting anything, like before starting to code for your application, before starting to develop your application, so first up you will need to import some libraries, right? So even if you're a like coming from a programming background or some other backgrounds, like you're not a developer, so even if you are having some basic knowledge of programming, so before writing a program, you should know that first up we import some basic default libraries so that we can take help of some pre-built functions. Like suppose you are trying to print a particular statement, so you don't just sit down to write a whole customized print statement for printing some goddamn text on your terminals, right? So you import a library from their uh, from the language default system, and you use those libraries, right? Like import the basic input output libraries. You can easily use the pre-built print functions to print something on your console, right? So similarly here, there is this library called material.dart, which comes from the Flutter SDK. So they are providing this material.dart package. You just need to import this. You just need to so think it's something like this particular library has some pre-built functions which helps you to build the applications which you desire, right? So before starting anything, like be sure to import this particular library, because it really has some good material widgets which you can take use of and build good smooth experiences in your applications, right? So this is kind of zen of Flutter. So before start coding anything, just import this library and then start your further work, right? So after, if you have imported this particular library, so there is this next statement called void main, and you can see we have used this lambda function here, and here there is this run app function, right? So now here comes the, you know uh, the delight of Flutter SDK, right? So if you're habituated with developing native applications, so the uh, you know behind the scenes of a native application, there is a lot of stuff going on while building your application, right? So that is why it takes such a lot of time while building those applications, right? So but with Flutter, you get this ready-made pre-built run app function. So what you do here, basically, so the main function, as you if you have a basic programming knowledge, is that the whatever is there in the main function, the code executes that, right? So here we are trying to run only one particular function. We are trying to call a particular function called run app, and we are passing this particular parameter called my app, right? So we'll learn what this my app is. So just think is like this is a particular parameter, and we are calling this run app function and passing this my app parameter, and then we are linking it to the main function, right? So whenever main function is executed, it calls this run app function and passes this my app parameter, right? So so what this run app function does is that it critically, fires up the engine and gets the particular application which you are trying to build up on your devices, right? Maybe like whatever device you are using, it can be Android, iOS, web, or desktop application. So it depends upon you, but this is the zen. You just type in the run app function and pass in the parameter which we are going to discuss about right now, and then you should be good to go, right? So just remember, before calling this function run app, you should import this material.dart package uh, before starting off, right? So so now let's just try to understand what this my app is all about, right? So as you can pretty much understand what it should be, it's basically your app, right? Whatever you're trying to build. So you can name it whatever you want, but here for simplicity purposes, they have kept it my app, so that you can understand, you can like this statement can be clearly understandable, right? So you're trying to run your app inside the main function, right? So so what this my app is, so as you can see, the my app here is a class which is extending a particular interface called stateless widget, right? So what is a widget basically? So a widget is in Flutter, like everything is a widget, right? Whatever you are seeing, like even this piece of text, like here you can see this is a zero is written here, and above that you can see this piece of text is written here. There is this like button with a plus icon. There is this application bar with this title of the application written. So all the components which you're seeing on the screen is termed as a widget with Flutter, right? So now there are two types of widgets with Flutter. One is a stateless widget, and the other is a stateful widget. So what a stateless widget is basically, so stateless widgets are immutable. Like you cannot change those widgets like in the actual runtime dynamically, right? So if you are trying to build a stateless widget on your application, you should you should know that the user can't change. Like if you're trying to make a button which a user will press, and then some stuff will happen in your application. So you should be sure that you are using a stateful widget, because using a stateful widget, it allows the user to change the application dynamically on their side, right? So just think it up like that. Like stateless widgets are immutable, they can't be changed dynamically with user interaction. But a stateful widget is something that can be changed and interacted by the user, right? So let's just see what this class my app is all about. So as you can see, since we have extended this stateless widget, which is a super class, so we are overriding this particular build method. So this build, so there is a super method called build in this particular class, and we are overriding it here, right? So if you have a basic programming knowledge, you can clearly understand what we're trying to do here. We are overriding a method from the super class, and again customizing it with whatever code we want, right? So here, as you can see, we are overriding this build method. We are passing the current context of the application, and we are returning something, right? So what are exactly, like what is exactly we're returning here? So as you can see, we are returning a material app. So this whole application which you're seeing is a material app, right? Because it is following the guidelines of material. So all these features which you're seeing is available with Flutter. You don't need to make anything custom for it. You just like, as you can just see the code, right? So you can assume that how simple it is, right? So you just return a material app and you give it a title. Just go through this, and I'm showing you parallelly what this code actually signifies in the application, right? So think this whole application as a material app. So we are returning a material app. We have got some title of this particular application. And so you don't need to think like you don't need this currently. You can live without it. So I'm just going ahead. So after that, we are specifying a theme here. So as you can see, we are specifying a primary color of our application, which is here. As you can see, we are mentioning blue. We can like we can change the color, and just hit the run. You'll see some changes on the screen. So yeah, so as you can see, like the entire theme of the application, the entire color of the application got changed. And as you have guessed, since I commented this particular line, you can see here a banner of a debug label has come here, because earlier it was kept false. So this is something which we developers use while debugging our application, because it pretty much helps us to understand that the application is currently in the debug stage. And we can make some possible trial and errors, and fix it in the upcoming versions, right? So that's why I told you don't need to understand that right now. So continuing with what we did, like we changed the particular color of our application, we changed the particular theme of our application. It was earlier blue, we changed it to green. And as you can see how simple it was. So just following the structure here. We are mentioning the theme, we are mentioning the color, and voila, we can see the change on our application, right? So now what next, right? So inside this, so whatever all these things you're saying, like before these colons, all these are parameters or attributes of this particular widget, right? So this particular widget called material app has all these parameters, all these attributes with itself, right? So the material app has a attribute called title, which gives the title of the your application. It has a attribute called theme, which wherein you can pass the theme data of your application, and specify different designs of your application. Like maybe you want to specify the background color, or maybe you want to specify some particular button colors, or else if you want to specify the whole overall theme of your application, you can simply use this primary swatch and attribute of this theme data widget, and specify the color of that, of the theme, your color of the swatch you're trying to use in your application, right? So next up is that we have a home attribute here in our material app, and here there we pass in, like we're passing this my home page widget, which with a argument called title, and it's this particular text, right? So now we are encountering something called my homepage. Now what the hell is my homepage? Is it a ready-made widget available in the material package or what? So as you can see here, we, so it's not a ready-made widget or some sorts.